Hey everyone, welcome to ReBloom, the podcast where we explore the power of change, rediscovery, and living with intention.
That's right. We're your hosts, Lori and Jamie, two friends who really love a good story about transformation.
In each podcast, we're going to chat with inspiring guests who've made bold pivots in their lives or careers. They've let go of what no longer served them to embrace something more authentic, joyful, and true to who they really are.
And the best part, many of them reconnect with passions or dreams they discovered as kids. It's about finding the seeds planted long ago and letting them bloom again.
So if you're ready for real conversations about reinvention, purpose, and following your creative heart, you're in the right place.
Let's dive in and see what it takes to rebloom.
Lori, our listeners are going to get to listen to one of my favorite people today, Calvert Crary. He is incredible. He is the executive director of the FlowerSchool of New York and LA. And he has not only bloomed, but he has helped thousands of other people to bloom in their careers too.
What I loved talking with Calvert is just the fact that he went from a photographer to the floral business, not really knowing a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
And now has created this amazing business that is helping thousands of people to pursue their own dreams and passions centered around flowers. What an incredible legacy.
What an incredible legacy and what a story. And you're all in for a great treat today. Welcome, friends. We are so excited to have you back for another episode of ReBloom. I'm Jamie Jameson.
And I'm Lori Siebert.
Hi, Lori. How are you today?
Hey, James. I'm excited to talk with our guest today. This is someone you know and I don't really know, so it'll be fun.
I do. And of course, it falls into the flower category, which is my cup of tea. Many years ago, I really felt like I needed to get a handle on flower arranging. And so I signed up to go and spend some time at the FlowerSchool of New York. And it was the most incredible week, probably one of the happiest weeks of my life. And I was able to meet the executive director, Calvert Crary. And we are so excited to welcome Calvert today. He is the executive director of FlowerSchool New York and FlowerSchool LA. He's a photographer, he's a florist, he's an internationally recognized instructor, mentor. He's taught all over the world, Holland, Mexico. He's coached thousands of students, and he is going to just share his story today, and we cannot wait to meet him. So welcome, Calvert.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Calvert. And you've done a couple beautiful books. We don't.
Yes. Oh, yes, he has. He's done the FlowerSchool. Oh my gosh. Two that if you are into flowers, you absolutely need to have. One is the FlowerSchool. It is a practical guide to the art of flower arranging. And then there's also the Encyclopedia of Cut Flowers, which will tell you everything about all kinds of cut flowers. And both of those are must-haves. They are fabulous. So little plug for your books.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's exciting to be here. I love talking about flowers, and I love talking about the passion that goes into it and, why people do it and how we help them.
Well, thank you so much. So you didn't start out in flowers. I know several people, I have several friends that parents were flowers or florists, or parents were flowers, parents were florists. But you started out on a different path. Can you tell us about your initial career?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think that with flowers, which is a lot like a lot of other trades, they are an apprenticeship-oriented type of trade. So over the past, 100 or 200 years, when floral design, I guess it's really been popular for thousands of years, really. People have loved flowers forever. But the only way to really master the craft and get into the business was to have a family member who had a company or have a parent who was doing it and then to take it on. And you hear countless stories like that. However, I think in this day and age, we've been a lot more creative with our simulation style learning, and we're able to present a sort of an apprenticeship styled program here at FlowerSchool, where the students are not only taught, but then they get an opportunity to do for at least 3 weeks, be a florist. And I think that that is what makes this particular program very special, and why people come from all over the world to do it. But you're right, I was not always a florist. And in fact, when I started out in flowers, I was terrible. I was
Oh, no.
terrible. I didn't, there are people who can very quickly and very easily make a beautiful composition of flowers. I am not that person. And it took me a long time to really figure it out, which I think is what makes the program really good, just because you're being taught by somebody who is also not very good at it. But I started out actually as a photographer. And before I was a photographer, I was a municipal bond underwriter at Chase Manhattan Bank.
No
What?
way. No
What?
way.
Oh my gosh, the least creative Oh my God. I didn't know
Well,
this about
it
you.
had its ups and downs being a bond underwriter.
Yeah.
There was a book written about it called The Three Martini Lunch,
Yeah.
and that was my favorite part.
Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God. So you were doing a bond. I didn't even know this chapter about your life. And then how did you pivot to photography?
Well, I think that I pivoted the same way that everyone else pivots. And, there are books written about this type of stuff, which we can go into later. But as nice as it is to have a job that pays well, where there's an upward trajectory, it's very exciting, for a kid, but who doesn't know much. But I think that when you are if you've ever had an opportunity to have a passion and to act on it, you realize that money is just not the important thing, and climbing this corporate ladder is not the important thing, but exercising your passion or having an opportunity to exercise passion is where you want to spend your time. And so I very quickly kind of looked around at these guys, having a great time in finance, and saying this is nice, but there's other things out there in the world that I want to go and experience, and I should just do it now, and I can always change
Right.
course later.
So did you have an interest in photography like as you were growing up, or is that something you just wanted to explore your creative side and somehow you followed that path?
Great question. I was a dual major in college, a photography and economics.
Gotcha.
Ah,
I
Mhm.
gotcha. So you left the bond world. I probably would have
Mhm.
left the bond world and off to photography. What kind of photography were you doing, Cal?
Great question. I think that when anyone decides they're going to do something that they like, the ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
You just say,
Especially
I just
when you're
want to be
young.
part of it. Yeah, I'm just going to
Yeah.
start something, and I'm just going to try to
Sure.
do it, whatever it is. And, you eventually realize, it's a little bit more complicated. So I started doing photography, a couple of parties here and there, a couple of weddings. And then I realized that in order to get real training, you had to work with somebody.
Okay.
So I started assisting and working for other photographers, and finding out what they did. And a lot like flowers, they had specialties. I think that in the liberal arts world, everyone is learning a lot of things, but a little bit of everything. But I think when you get into professional world, you really have to be a specialist. So I
Yeah.
worked with a lot of fashion photographers, a lot of portrait photographers, and a lot of travel photographers, and some interior photographers. So I kind of worked with all of these guys, and
In-
eventually found my niche, which is sort of a portrait travel fashion photographer, and was working for, Men's Journal and Best Life magazine. And I don't even think these magazines exist anymore, but I did a lot of those types of things. And I spent a lot of time
okay.
traveling, pretty much, but I
Yeah.
had a studio as well. And there was other, we did all sorts of go-sees and model castings and all sorts of things.
So
so
go ahead. Go, Laura.
I was just wondering how that led you into the floral world.
That
Like
was my
you were,
question.
so I thought you were going to say you photographed flowers or still lifes or something, but no.
Mhm.
So how did that happen?
It's kind of funny. Like in flowers, I was not a great photographer, but I was great at production, meaning I was there with all my gear ready to go, and like that's where I spent like, and then the time to shoot the photos, like I kind of didn't have as much of a vision for it or as much of a skill for it as I wanted, it was just another day shooting another wedding, and I couldn't really connect. I felt like with a lot of the subjects. I mean, I connected enough, but I just saw other people connecting much better. And I was like,
Yeah.
maybe this isn't the perfect thing for me. And at the time, my partner and she had decided that she wanted to also have her own business because having your own business and pursuing your own passion is exciting and fun.
Yeah.
And she had realized that she didn't want to do the corporate grind anymore either. And so we took classes at this little tiny one room flower school, and it was called FlowerSchool New York.
Yeah.
And then we went right ahead and opened up a business and put down the deposit, spent a bunch of money. And it turns out my partner didn't really like it as much as I did. And
Ah,
I had a lot more production experience, a lot more passion for this flower project. And I kind of ended up taking it over and quitting the photography game and just going full time into flowers because I felt there was more excitement in it and there was more opportunity. Because if you guys have done flowers before, you realize that most of the work is the production of it. The
yes.
flowers do all the work. I mean, if you can get the flower into the correct place, that's the job. You don't
Yeah.
have to do anything else.
Yeah. So you bought, about what year was this, Calvert, that you bought this?
We started in the flower business around 2006,
Yeah.
2005, 2006. And the flower school in New York had just started.
Yeah.
And around 2010, the then owner of the flower school had reached out to us, and um, they had were having trouble kind of running the school, and it's because they didn't have any experience in the flower business. And they said, we're looking for partners to maybe take it over. And so we just bought the school because we had such success in our flower shop business. We were like, well, school would be a great opportunity for us.
Right.
And when we got there and started doing the school, realized that this was going to be a little bit more of a challenge. There was no real program to be said.
Yeah.
There was, it's just flower arranging classes basically. That's all that they
Right.
were doing. And we kind of don't really do a lot of flower arranging classes. We do programs where people
You
learn
do.
flowers and learn how to do it professionally. And so we just slowly started building the program
Mm-hmm.
and asking florists what they need out of their employees and started teaching those lessons, started expanding and getting larger. And eventually, the trajectory of our program building, we were awarded a license to teach business programs from the New York Department of Education,
Yeah.
which kind of put a flag in the ground saying, you guys are teaching a legitimate career development program for people to do this as a business. And we're still doing that, and we're really proud of that.
And you should be, because you're accredited, and to be part of an accredited program or to have an accredited program is huge. And yeah, that's fabulous. Go ahead,
I
Lori.
just want to go back just a second. So you were realizing that maybe the photography that you were doing was not a good fit. But what made you decide to take a floral class? Like were
Mm.
you was that an interest of yours, or you just wanted to do something for fun?
Yeah, well, my partner was the one who kind of initiated it. Um, I guess that she just felt that our neighborhood needed a flower shop.
Okay. So
That's
you
fun.
went into it maybe
Blind.
thinking it was going to be a business. So it
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we
wasn't
went
just
straight in. I had no idea. I knew nothing about flowers. Nothing. I mean,
I
I've
love
been
it.
photographing weddings and I've always liked them, but I just had no idea what it took to put together wedding that you would see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
But you being someone who loves the production and building a business is something that's a skill set that you really have.
Yeah, or a passion for it.
Right.
I can't say it's a skill set because I'm like most of my students, unaware of what it takes to do some of these things. And I think that if you have a passion for something, that trumps everything else
Yeah.
because you're just going to feed that passion and get the enjoyment and the feeling of accomplishment for yourself that you had done that. I'm sure there are plenty of other things out there that come easily to me that I don't pursue. But this particular one, the rewards that you get from doing flowers well, in my opinion, trumps a lot of other things. And now you develop a passion for it.
You are 100% correct. And, it's interesting, Calvert, because you remind me, I mean, you're such an entrepreneur. And I think a good entrepreneur is someone who just says, okay, I believe in this. I like this idea. I'm going after it. And I'll figure out the hard stuff later. And yeah, there's hard stuff, but to your point, there's often great rewards. What are some of the hard challenges of owning the FlowerSchool New York in the early days? What were I know one in 2020 that I can talk to you about because I was personally there for that one. But early on, like what were some of the challenges that now looking back, you think, yeah, that was tough, but you know what? We figured it out, we got it, and we owned it, and we moved on.
Mm. Well, there are big challenges and little challenges. I guess the big challenge is fighting all the little challenges.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
that we are regularly in contact with some of the top design studios here in New York City, and we're always asking them, what are the things that you need people to know how to do? For example, painting of leaves and flowers is something that people did a couple of years ago. People aren't doing it anymore, but the needs of the creative industry are always changing. So you always have to have your ear to the ground, and especially in New York City, where it's just the top place in the world to
Right.
do a lot of this stuff. But the last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with one of our affiliates where we send interns regularly, and she looked at me and said, I don't understand what it is, Cal. It's not just FlowerSchool students. But it's everyone. When I bring in freelancers, people get so nervous or confident or what they just don't even cut the flowers at an angle,
Huh?
which is like the number one thing that
Yeah.
people are supposed to do.
Even I know that.
Even, yeah.
I think that I think it's the trying to first you teach someone to cut the flowers at an angle, but then when you put them on the line where people are doing flowers, they'll get so nervous that they'll forget because they're just trying to go really fast. And I think it's the reason why this is such an apprenticeship business is because you are kind of trained to do this thing and then not to think, just do it like this every time.
Right.
And people always want to revert to their old, oh, well, I'm just going to use a clipper and just cut it and put it in the water. And it's like, no, 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 that is not
No.
how professionals do it. And we have to constantly remind people. So it's funny one of the challenges is sort of untraining some people and then having them in a real situation to do it the correct way as they go. And I think that's like one challenge is, I guess, working with the students to have them remember their training.
Yeah.
So that's one challenge. But I think that when you're a business owner, you have all of the other challenges. I think
Mm-hmm.
that the number one challenge that all business owners have is hiring and training people from day one.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
business, it's really always about getting the right staff. And I have to remind a lot of the shops that we work with that, finding one person and putting them in is not the solution. Having an actual training program for a lot of people to come in. So you're constantly seeing new people to wait until the right person with the right attitude, the right skills, and the right passion walk in the door, and then boom, now you've nailed the right person. And I think that is the job of the entrepreneur, is to really recognize talent and to be ready to bring them on board day one because
Yeah.
a good person who has the right passion is the engine of your business.
I have a question about your students. Is there a typical age range, and are some of them, were they raised in the floral world, or some of them making pivots themselves in their lives?
That's a great question, Lori. Yeah, because people come to flowers from all ways. Luckily, here at FlowerSchool, we have a really diverse group of people coming from all over the world.
Uh-huh.
Our youngest people will come in. Some have come right out of high school. Instead of going to college, they have realized that events is their passion, and they don't need to go to college. They want to start producing events right there. And we've helped a lot of young people do our program instead of college. Either they do it for a few years and then they go back to college, or they have just been doing it ever since and have built huge businesses. And then we also have people who are on their second and third and fourth careers.
Uh-huh.
A couple of people in particular, can give a little shout out to Charmaine Brooks, who was here. She is in her 70s. She decided that she always
Stop.
had a passion to do this and loves flowers, and decided to just go ahead and bite the bullet. After
I
doing
love
the
that.
program, she did a bunch of freelance jobs, and then we hired her here part-time to help us with the education part. And it turns out one of her favorite things is to just work with people and to do flowers with people. And so, there's a lot. I think that one of the big values of the program is that there's a lot of different jobs within the event and design
Yeah.
industry that you can do, and in the flower industry, that anyone of any age can do. And so we
Yeah.
find a lot of people pivoting to this, kind of not knowing that much about it, but once they've learned, they find a place and then they can continue on with their passion.
So true. And, it's interesting. Cal, I was one of his instructors for a short time, and it was such an honor. I taught the social media class for Cal to some of the students. And to your point, Lori, there was a whole range. They were international, all ages. And I loved seeing either the new person or the pivots along the way. And it was really pretty cool to see all of those people who are just following their passion and following their dreams. And Calvert's program is just so great that it allows for that. It allows for somebody to come in and really follow their dreams. And it's just a wonderfully set up program. And yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. The pivots,
Yeah.
are fascinating, and I find that they all sort of have one thing in common. We've had pivots who have had big careers as corporate lawyers or bankers or dentists or just shop managers. They all sorts of different things, and the one thing that they all have in common is that they don't feel as though they're able to really attach to their passion what they're doing before. And
Right.
even if they've made lots of money doing what they're doing, it's never enough
No.
because they don't feel fully whole, because they're not able to do their art or do their craft full time. And I think that they're always waiting for that next moment to say, hey, now I'm ready. But it's like, no, now I'm ready. Or I need just another, or maybe just one more, or maybe 5 more years. And they never really get there. And
Yeah.
what they do is they say, well, you know what? I'm done. I'm switching.
Yeah.
And they just put a line in the sand and say, I'm going full in.
Let's take a quick minute and thank our amazing sponsors. Our podcast is proudly brought to you today by Jet Creative and Urban Stems. Jet Creative is a women-owned marketing firm committed to community and empowerment since 2013. Are you ready to rebloom and build a website or start a podcast? Visit jetcreative.com/podcast to kickstart your journey. They will help you bloom in ways you never imagined. And bonus, our listeners get an exclusive discount when you mention ReBloom. And a huge thanks to Urban Stems, your go-to and our go-to source for fresh, gorgeous bouquets and gifts delivered coast to coast. Use Bloom Big 20 and save 20% on your next order. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at ReBloom Podcast. Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to you for joining us today. Now, as executive director, are you finding that your buckets are full with your creativity? There's still the challenges. I do want to share one story. I was teaching at the FlowerSchool, New York, March 13th. There are certain days that are March 13th, let me say 2020, that are imprinted in your brain. And I was teaching and the school, everything was shutting down in New York. And it was such a crazy time. But I have to say, from an observer standpoint too, Calvert, watching you pivot the pandemic and pivot your business and move it from, okay, we're like, oh, it'll be back to class. Nope, we're going to do everything online. And you were shipping flowers. And again, that's part of the entrepreneurial spirit. You're making it happen. What else choice did we have to do? And you made it happen. You made it thrive. I mean, it's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, a pivot. I find like anxiety sets in, and all of a sudden you're willing to try anything.
Yeah. But you pivoted. So now, sort of back to my question, I've got sidetracked, but you've got this very creative heart. And are you finding that now you're many years into the FlowerSchool New York, FlowerSchool LA, writing books, still working with students? Are you finding your own buckets filled, your creative buckets?
I think that fortunately or unfortunately for me, being creative means that you are always trying to find that next thing to do, and you fill a bucket and then you make another bucket. And there's at least 7,000 or 8,000 buckets ahead of me.
Oh my God, that's so true.
Yeah. Well, speaking of future buckets, do you have anything on the horizon that you're kind of like, do you see FlowerSchool New York or FlowerSchool LA evolving into something different, or is it going to stay on its same path?
Oh yeah, good question. So we haven't told anyone yet. So, but I'm happy to let you guys in on a little secret.
Breaking news.
Big news.
Breaking news. So we are considering a name change for the school to incorporate more of the things that we do. So over the past couple of years, we have put together a really fun and nice essential oils classes where people can make nice elixirs and more of like a wellness aspects to them, because we all know that plants and herbs can release wonderful vibes and have wonderful wellness properties. We also have a dinner series that we're putting together. We have access to a lot of really great Michelin-starred chefs here in New York City who want to try out specialty dinners that are, sort of plant and wellness focused, where, people can come together and have a wonderful dinner, which means that we're putting on more events. So we also have an event design and planning program that we've run a couple of times, which we're going to spend more time running in the future. And we have other things like, mocktail and cocktail programs, which are both recreation and professional for people who want to learn how to make cocktails. So we're kind of doing, and we also have travel programs. We have one to Holland, one to Mexico City, and then one to Japan, which we're about to announce soon.
Wow.
Where our students can go for a 10-day gardening, design, and crafting trip to Tokyo. And it's just a really fun, time to be at FlowerSchool. So we realized that the name FlowerSchool kind of pigeonholes us a little bit. So we are going to have a much larger umbrella company titled the Institute for the Living Arts, where we have flower school and cocktail school and event design school and travel programs for all of these like-minded individuals.
It feels like, and I always notice this, it feels like some of the things that you've done along the way are all incorporating themselves into what you're doing now, because you traveled a lot. Like I could see you doing photography based courses of, shooting
Yeah.
flowers.
We'll have to bring Jamie to run all those
I want to
programs.
come. I'll come back anytime. You know I will.
I maybe said that because of that, Jamie.
Yeah.
I would absolutely come back in a heartbeat. No, it's but I love that you're looking towards the future, because I think that is also what happens sometimes with entrepreneurs is they get so stuck, and Lord knows our world is pivoting. Our world is pivoting around us. So we have to be ready to respond to the needs of, as you said, of the florists, of your customers. And it sounds like you're growing in really beautiful ways.
This is just a creative question. So you said you stay in touch with the top designers, and there are trends in floral design. I'm just curious what some of the trends are now.
It's always like a little bit of a rubber band. So, for example, about 10 years ago, maybe a little more, telangias and succulents and those types of varieties that are very unflowery flowers, mosses and things were becoming very, very popular. But they had like an organic tint to it, and I think it got a little bit boring for a lot of designers, because again, if you're a designer, you're always trying to do a new thing. And then people started doing a lot more tropicals and started doing dried tropicals, painted tropicals, and so that was going for a while. And then it was preserved flowers, preserved roses, preserved things. And then that sort of ebbed back. And I think that there's now just a little bit more of a focus on natural, real flowers, because I think it's kind of slingshots away and then kind of comes back. And then it will slowly slingshot in another direction pretty soon. But I think that the thing that people are most excited now are sort of unworldly tropicals and exotics. For example, I have a client right now who's interested a lot in very weird foliage. So we're doing a lot of begonias, which, as you guys know, can kind of look like plants that are from a different planet. And they're incorporating natural but exotic elements into their flower arrangements, which is quite fun.
Oh, I love that.
I love it. I want to just give a shout out to your shorter classes too. I know you have the accredited 6-week class, Calvert, but you also have smaller courses, which is the one that I took, which is the 1-week course, which for anyone out there who wants to really understand the foundations of flowers, foundation of it was just the most magical week of my life. It was just fabulous. Can you talk to us a little bit about your weekend programs and your shorter programs that you have too?
Sure. Thanks for the comment. I appreciate your support, Jamie.
It was lovely.
So we have recreation classes, which are just one-time classes, and those include we have a master class series where you get to work with a master florist. You do not have to be a master. It's just a recreation class where you get to see mastery, and they help you make a masterpiece in their image. The other programs you're talking about, those are like we would call them modules, and each module has sort of a different flavor. The modules in the beginning are what we would call technical training, and the program that you took is our introduction series and our intermediate series, which if you do them during the week, it's a 5-day program, and we call it our intensive series. But you can also take those programs, those modules on the weekends, and that would be our weekend florist. It's the same skills. It's like there's just the basic skills: cutting on the angle, skinning the stems, how to hydrate things, where they come from. And I think that it gives people a really good idea of how to do flowers in the most basic sense very well. And then as the programs go on, we kind of get into, rather than doing sort of like skills, everyone's expected to know how to do the skills, we get into a little bit more of management training. And management means, you're working as a group. The lead time for everything is much longer. So it's a 2-week project, a 3-week project. And, it's more focused on how to get the flowers right for an event, et cetera, et cetera. And then our final part of the program we would call our entrepreneurial part. That's where you get into the simulated learning, where you have to do events, you have to run your shop, and you're in charge, and we just help you do the vision that you have. So I think that in the world of education, there's I do it and then you do it.
Right.
Okay, not me personally, but someone shows you and then you copy.
Right.
The second level would be, let's work on this together. And
Yeah.
so, I have the idea, but we're going to do it together. The third iteration of our program is where you're in charge of doing it, your own ideas, and I am here to help you if you have trouble,
Right.
to help you remind your training. So all of our modules, they're in one of these three buckets: a technical training, management training, and entrepreneurial training. And so our 5-day intensive series is the most comprehensive technical program in the world. I'm very confident in saying that it's probably the best 5 days of floral design education offered globally. And the reason why I know this is because every time I look at our competitors, I see them trying to copy it. And
Yeah.
I can see they're missing the point, because it's like, it's not just about making a flower arrangement. It's about the production, going quickly, not damaging the flowers, where they come from, and sort of how to do this professionally. So
I couldn't agree more. And I think I walked away from that 5 days with just such a strong foundation, as do your students from all your other programs. And that's the thing, you're creating this amazing foundation for everyone.
Well, I have to know about your travel courses because
Ah,
I love to travel. So
yeah.
what do those look like?
Oh, great question. I don't know how we started doing this, but um, I can just tell you where we are now. Okay, so our programs are limited to only 12 people, because the typical passenger van that goes behind the scenes only fits 15. And that's so for two support staff, a driver, and the students. And we keep our programs light and sweet, meaning that we have a lot of contacts everywhere we go. We will go to one or two tourist attractions, but most of it is behind the scenes. Most of it is a restaurant that no one can get into. It is a go to a antiques dealer that doesn't have a shop and go to their studios. You meet artisans, craftspeople. We have a program also to Italy, which we're going to do this fall.
Ooh,
It's really for event designers and
yeah.
flower and event businesses, where we're going to go to Venice and meet all of the artisans, and we can purchase wonderful Venetian glass and all sorts of things, Murano glass, directly from the manufacturers. And it's sort of a behind the scenes. And we're also, that trip is half in Venice, and plus is great food and great fun. And the other half is going to be in Milan with all the textiles and the pillows and all of those wonderful things. And we're organizing the shipping of the materials back to where you are.
Oh my
So that
God.
way people can go, and if they have a little bit of budget left for the year, they can go on a nice trip, enjoy really good company, go behind the scenes, and maybe purchase a couple of items that they might want to rent or sell to their customers.
I
Dreamy. You
love
get to
it.
go on these, or are you back running the school?
I'm usually back running the school,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
again, as a business owner, an important thing to me is that my staff enjoys being here as well, and having them run these programs is exciting for me,
Yeah.
because they get a chance to get into it. I wouldn't dare do a trip to Italy not knowing how to speak Italian, but luckily we have an incredible events director here, and she's hilarious and wonderful and is Italian. So she's going to
Amazing.
go and show everyone where the restaurants are, and like a local. And that's why we keep the numbers down to just 12 people.
is there a
That,
floral component threaded through these as well?
Yeah, I think that the floral components, we've done a lot of these travel trips before for florists, and I think Amsterdam is a really great example. Is we spent every day doing flower classes the first time, and for most florists, they don't really want to sit around and work all day. That's what they do at home. What they
yeah.
want to do is really kind of shop, get immersed into the culture a little bit. I mean, one flower design opportunity is like enough, where you get access to unique products that you don't necessarily have in New York. So a flower activation for us might mean a couple of armloads of flowers that we got directly from the farmer's market, brought to the Murano glass facility, and they test out a few vases, and then they, purchase 50 or 80 or 100 and send them to me.
Amazing.
Wow.
But it's not really like, oh, I'm going to be carrying this flower arrangement around with me on all my
Yeah.
program. It's like, a couple of great opportunities to work with a few well-known designers is enough. But, having flowers at the dinners and all of those things, yeah, we want to do that.
I have to tell a funny little story. I've been to the Murano glass factory, and I went with my kids, and we went in, and my son has ADD. And the guy who welcomed us in goes, "Hey, it's okay. We're insured. You can touch anything." And I spent the next hour freaked out because he was walking around touching every bazillion-dollar chandelier. And I'm like, I'm gonna kill this guy. Like, I just wanted to just lose it. Yeah. But it is a phenomenal facility, and it is beautiful. And what a treat for the people that are going on this trip. That's going to be incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the world is a wonderful place, and if your passions can take you to those places, then have more passions.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I want to ask a question. Speaking of master florists, you provide the foundation, this incredible education and foundation. Can we kind of talk up some of your alums? You've got some pretty fabulous alums out there in the world that are masters themselves now that started with you and really are shining a bright light on the Flower School of New York and the Flower School of LA.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We're so proud of all of our alumni. At this point, it must be thousands of people out there working in the flower industry. Wherever they are, they either own businesses, they're working in businesses, they're working in the events field. It seems like every time I go to the flower market, I run into 4 or 5 people who are just doing it and enjoying it. And I think it's a big difference, because anyone can go to the flower market and buy flowers, but not everyone can go to the flower market, enjoy it, not be stressed, have a business where they're making good money and they're enjoying their experience. And I think that that's the one characteristic that flower school graduates have, is that they're organized enough and know how to have a business making money so that they can enjoy it even more. And yeah, so we've had hundreds of people open businesses, and I think that in order for us to consider someone a master, it really takes 10 years of really great experience working with some of the top commissions in order to really say, hey, you know what? I have mastered this. I know that I have the confidence that I have mastered this.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorite stories that we have is a woman named Brittany Murray, whose company is called the Flower Slinger, and we invited her back to Flower School for a special alumni masterclass series. And she has really made a name for herself doing some of the most challenging flower arrangements and designs that you see out there in the world. And when I say challenging, I don't mean difficult to do as much as I mean it takes a real creative eye to interpret the materials the way that she does it. And it is unlike anything anyone has seen. It has nothing to do with how it's painted or whatever. It's just the colors are highly contrasted. It's incredible. And then another woman from Flower Bodega, Aria, she is in New York. She is really focusing on commercial clients, and she does just incredible brand activations. And she came back for a class. We have Ingrid Carozzi from Tin Can Studio, Carlos from the Floratorium. And now this is a guy who has really taken anything that I may have taught him to a whole new level. Carlos came to Flower School thinking that he was an interior designer. Maybe he should do flowers. What he's done is combined both. And so his company, the Floratorium, sort of revolutionized this wisteria vine flower facade that a lot of restaurants were doing during COVID to kind of bring in customers. And now he's turning it the Floratorium home, where he's doing really high-end floral installations with artificial and real flowers and plants in people's homes as an interior design aesthetic. So he's basically married floral design, installations with his interior design training. And now he has a location in Los Angeles, Miami, and in New York.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm telling you, his company is getting huge. And he was just here the other day, just saying hi to the students and talking. And he was just saying, I didn't think that doing flowers was actually a career. But now, after going to flower school, now I see all of these other people doing this as a career, doing a zillion different things. But the
Yeah.
foundation of, hey, this is a business. I need to make money. I learned that at flower school, and that
Yeah.
will take you everywhere.
That and cut your flowers at an angle, people.
What an incredible legacy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just, you must be so proud
Yes.
of what you've created, and because flowers are so joyful, and then to have a business around it. I mean, you wouldn't work a day in your life basically, because it's all about joy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And yeah, I think that you just need a few skills. I think that our program is 6 weeks because you really only need a couple of weeks worth of skills, and then the entire world opens up.
It
It's
does.
to
Wow.
a place that you've never seen. It's just everywhere. Business is, most of our teachers who come back to teach, they're never worried about competition because they know that there's just so much business out there. For someone who's creative, they can do a myriad of different things and enjoy all of them.
Well, and it's so true. And, it's interesting because when you're taking the classes, there's a recipe and there's a teacher who's going to show you, okay, well, this is what we're going to try to create. But it's amazing. You can look around the room, and if there's 15 people in the room, you're going to have 15 different designs. I mean, there'll be some that are using the same flowers, we're using the same compote, but even so, someone's cut something a little shorter or made something, and you can see their creative eye happening even within the school. And it's like, oh, I never thought to do. It's just that's where you begin to see their soul and their person start to bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Amazing. You are incredible. Anybody who is at all loves flowers, this is the place, whether you're living in LA or New York, you want to go to the Flower School of New York or the Flower School of LA.
Or if you want to go to Holland or Mexico
Go
or
on one of the
Venice
trips.
or
Oh my gosh.
With a
Check it
group of
out.
like-minded people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Calvert has 2 amazing books as well. We will have links to the books and to the school. And so if anybody has any questions, you can certainly reach out to the Flower School with questions. But Calvert, one of the things that we like to do is we like to ask our guests if there's a piece of advice that they sort of follow or something that you give to your students that we can share with our listeners.
I think one thing that is important that you all take heed to is make sure when your head is in the clouds that your feet are firmly planted on the ground.
I love that.
Mm.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, you can have a business doing anything, your wildest dreams, and usually the crazier. I mean, you've seen Pizza Rat, you've
Mm-hmm.
seen My Pet Rock. The
True.
crazier the idea, sometimes the better. But if you put together a good structure and make a business out of it, then you can do it forever.
I love it.
Mm.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I think hearing about the Flower School and listening to your story is so inspirational, and I know our listeners will love it. And we appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thanks, guys. Wonderful to
So
be here.
great
Thank
to
you
meet
so
you.
much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with your podcast, and I hope to hear many wonderful stories from all of your listeners in the future.
You
Yeah.
will. You will. Well, thanks, Calvert. Thanks again.
So great to meet you and hear your story. I loved it.
Thanks. Thanks. Life is too short not to follow your passions. So go out there and let your heart plant you where you are meant to be and grow your joy.
We will be right here sharing more incredible stories of reinvention with you. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode of ReBloom.
Until next time, I'm Jamie Jameson.
And I'm Lori Siebert.
Peace, love, and rebloom, dear friends.